What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We're Fans. You know me, I'm Gennaro. That's Duran.
What's up, guys?
All right, today we got a special guest. We got John Reed. Now, John, before I give away your subreddit, man, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you on that?
Hey everyone, you can find our subreddit at our Denver Broncos on reddit.com. It's a great community full of Broncos country and the best mod team that Reddit has to offer.
Hey, I believe that you're very active on there too, and that's pretty much why I reached out to you. And hopefully, maybe down the road we'll get Brandon on here as well. But
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, there's always a good community of fans. I mean, with all communities comes a little bit of riffraff, but I like a lot of stuff that Reddit has to offer as far as football goes.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are definitely active. When I went on there and got to see all the links, everything that you posted, all the stories, it was awesome. And yeah, I'm glad Duran set this up for us. Ready to dive into this.
All right, John. So how did it all start? How did you become a Broncos fan?
I assume my story is very similar to a lot of people's. I had no choice. I was born into a family of Broncos fans. I'm third generation Broncos fan. My dad's told me stories about watching the original Super Bowl. He told me about watching Floyd Little, the franchise. The big experience of my life has just always been that my whole family gets around and watches the Broncos together.
Nice. So would you say your dad's the biggest Bronco fan?
No, I am.
You've taken over the ground.
Oh, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah, I like it. So you said it got passed down to you from your dad, from your grandfather to your dad. Do you know how your grandfather got on the bandwagon?
Well, I mean, the Broncos only started in 1960, and for people who know the history, they were a bit of a laughing stock for quite a few years. They really never made an impression in the AFL. And my grandpa actually was a big Washington Redskins fan. And then when my dad and his whole family moved from Georgia in the 60s, it was the local team. So it just kind of fit and worked out. And ever since then, it was just what the Reeds did. We were just all big Broncos fans.
Nice. I love it.
You got kids. You got a kid that you're passing it down to?
I got two sons. My oldest doesn't seem to be too interested in sports right now. He's more into Pokemon and things that frustrate me. But the youngest one, he seems to be really into sports, and I just never want to be that dad that forces sports onto my kids. So
yeah, there's hope, man. You got it.
It'll come naturally. It's in his blood.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So growing up, did you have someone that you watched the games with on a regular basis?
Yeah, my family, my dad. Every Sunday, I mean, in today's America, football runs the world. So we did what every family did, and we did what every family does now. And we sit down, and at 11 o'clock Mountain Time in Colorado, we sit down and we watch the 11 o'clock game until 2. Then we watch the Broncos game usually, and then we watch the evening game. So football's in the household pretty much all the time when there's games being played. So I would always sit down and watch it with my dad. It's something that's always been important between me and my dad. And we actually got matching Broncos tattoos last year. So it's been a pretty family affair the entire time.
There you go.
Nice. I know both of mine and G's houses are the same way. If there's a game on, it's on in our house. So we keep I know you grew up in the area. Did you ever go to any like training camps or anything like that?
So I haven't been to any training camps, which is unfortunate because I live in northern Colorado, and up until about 10 to 15 years ago, the Broncos actually did their training camp at the University of Northern Colorado. Okay. And so I would have family that would go and watch those training camps. And actually my aunt busted through security one time and ran up to John Elway and got his autograph, and she still has that ball. And nice. It's like her treasured heirloom.
We might need to get your aunt on here next. She sounds like a big fan.
Oh yeah, she is. She definitely was the one that she was the one that took it from being fans to fanatics in my dad's household.
Perfect. Do you remember your first piece of memorabilia or jersey or hat or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, I just handed it down to my youngest son. It's just a orange Broncos t-shirt that just says Broncos Country. It's got the old logo on it, the old bucking D. And he's wearing it now. He wears it every Sunday. And it's just a small t-shirt, you know.
That's awesome, man. I always got to ask, do you know the brand of it? Is it Starter? Is it the old Reebok? Is it anything like that?
Walmart t-shirt.
Just a t-shirt?
Yeah.
There you go. Something that was probably bought at a gas station, but hand down, man. There you go.
Got it. Do you remember the first game you attended? Was it at Mile High?
Yes, it was at the old Mile High.
Yep.
I went with my dad, and it was actually the last game ever played at the old Mile High. And we have a picture, and you can see the last piece of the lighting being put into the new Mile High in the background. So it was they played the 49ers that day. Sorry, Gennaro, they did walk away with that big W, but
Nice.
it was a Brian Greasy game. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was going to ask if you walked away with the win.
Yep.
I've
actually had really good luck going to games. I don't get to go to too many games because I'm a normal person and NFL tickets are very expensive. But on the games I have gone to, I've had a lot of really, really good luck.
Awesome.
I was actually at that Broncos Dallas game about 4 years ago, and I took one of my friends who's a big Cowboys fan, and the Broncos ended up it turned into a blowout at the very end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really realize how dangerous it is to be a Cowboys fan in Denver until I was walking out of that stadium with him, and people were just going after him, and it was like, so
wow,
game, guys, don't worry about it.
And that, I feel like that's the opposite. I've been to the Cowboys Stadium a couple times, and I feel like they might have the friendliest fans around. And I think it's just because everyone comes to visit that stadium that they're just used to having a lot of opponents' fans there and things. It's more of a destination. It's not really,
I fully agree,
territorial.
Yeah, you have to look at the stadium that Jerry Jones built, and it's football at this point. It's been the inspiration for the new Rams Stadium. I will not call it the Chargers Stadium.
It's called SoFi Stadium.
Yeah,
Roomba. So it's been that Cowboys Stadium's on my bucket list of places I need to visit.
Nice. Yeah, I want to knock a couple more stadiums out too. So yeah, it's in your blood, man. You're a Broncos fan through and through.
Absolutely.
So, overall, who's your favorite Broncos player ever? Can we take a guess first, actually?
Yes, you can, but I guarantee you won't get it.
Oh, okay. All right. You're making me dig. G, do you want to go first? I have a couple that I have in mind.
I have a couple too. I mean, I played receiver growing up, so he was definitely an inspiration of wearing always the size small cleat. So I'm gonna go Ed McCaffrey.
You go Eddie Mac? No.
Oh, damn. Okay.
All right. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna try not to. I won't do a quarterback. Right. He was one of my favorite Broncos. I know he wasn't drafted by them, but Champ Bailey.
No, actually, but Champ Bailey is a great guess. He was definitely part of the defense. Al Wilson, which a lot of people don't know, he was drafted the year after the Broncos' second Super Bowl win, and he's someone that he's going to get put in the Ring of Fame soon. But to non-Broncos fans, he's very much a minor character. But
yeah,
he was just this aggressive middle linebacker. He was always undersized, but he was very fast. In the years that I played football, I always wore number 56 because of him, and he had this attitude about him that I really felt the team really needed. And you saw when he retired, the team fell off. He retired very early. He retired after 9 years due to a neck injury, and it broke my heart. He definitely was one of the few lights during that miserable time between Mike Shanahan and Peyton Manning.
All right, yeah, those are your formidable years right there.
Yeah.
So watching him, I see right here, 5-time Pro Bowler. He is drafted in the first round, the 31st pick overall. You're right. I wasn't too familiar with him.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He's out of Tennessee, right? That was his college, right? He went to Tennessee?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's great. Pro Football Reference has him as the most valuable player on your team in 2005. And that's just approximate value that they put a number on, and it spits out who the most important player on the team was. And yeah, I wasn't too familiar with him. That's a great answer. I like it.
When he said non-quarterback, I was about to say Tim Tebow.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, you want to cause a rift in a fan base, just bring that name up.
Yeah.
Because there's still people that are like, he would have been great. And I'm like, I'm not sure he was left-handed.
Whenever I hear people's favorite player, I always think, that they didn't succeed all on their own. Football is such a team sport that there's usually a cast of characters around him. Do you know if he was Batman? Do you know who his Robin was? I don't know. Was it Elvis Dumervil? I don't know if you played with him, but is it someone else on the defensive line or secondary or another linebacker that kind of made it all happen?
Well, I would say that you already brought up the name that I would say was the Batman of that defense, and that's Champ Bailey.
Yep.
I know that you're a big Cowboys fan, so I'm sure you're a big primetime guy, but Champ Bailey is the greatest cornerback I've ever watched play just because he could actually tackle.
Yep.
And he was spectacular. I would say that Al Wilson was the Robin of that defense. But yeah, definitely Champ Bailey ran that defense. When I think of the term shutdown corner, he didn't just shut down in the pass game. He shut down in the run game as well. He was an edge sealer, which is so rare to come from the cornerback position.
Yep.
I really wish Champ Bailey's most famous moment wasn't getting away with a fumble out of the back of the end zone against the Patriots. And I really wish he would have been on the Super Bowl 50 team, and that his last meaningful play with the Broncos wasn't in the biggest Super Bowl loss I've ever watched. So,
wow. Champ Bailey, definitely a legend. I remember watching him growing up. He was one of my favorite players, but that's why he was my guess. When you said you won't be able to guess him, I was like, it might be Champ. You know, most people go with a quarterback, Terrell Davis, a wide receiver, someone that's scoring touchdowns, but both of those guys definitely legends, especially for the Broncos.
So I know we covered favorite player. Do you have a favorite coach in this era?
I think any Broncos fan worth his salt is going to go with Mike Shanahan. He had the tenure. He was there for, I think, 15 years, 14 years. The 2 Super Bowls everyone's aware of, but he started pumping out running backs. And I feel like we're starting to get to that point where these young fans aren't going to remember that Mike Shanahan was turning nobodies into 1,000-yard rushers. And it made us such a spoiled fan base. We had Olandis Gary, Mike Anderson, Reuben Drones. These are 1,000-yard rushers that left and didn't do much when they left. And then, one came back. He turned I can't remember what round he was drafted in, but Clinton Portis into a 1,700-yard rusher and then flipped him for Champ Bailey. And it was his
Alfred Morris too.
He took Jake Plummer to an AFC championship game. And when he ended up getting fired, one of the saddest stories is that, he got fired and he was basically told he was going to have a lifetime contract. And I think the Broncos, it took them well over almost a decade to recover from that decision.
Yeah, I figured you were going to say Shanahan. I know you're too young for Dan Reeves, but Shanahan, as you know, his legend continues on with his son right now. But just the coaches that he hired in his tenure there, Matt LaFleur, Anthony Lynn, Sean McVay, Raheem Morris, of course, his son, Kyle Shanahan. But all those young guys are head coaches in the NFL currently. And that just shows you the influence that he's had on some of these younger guys and coaches.
Even the other Broncos coach to win a Super Bowl, Gary Kubiak, he was Mike Shanahan disciple himself. And now he's making it happen in Minnesota. He's going to get another look at head coach. I don't know if his health is up to it, but the city of Denver has lived off of that zone blocking scheme for 30 years now.
Yeah. You're right. They have pumped out a lot of running backs underneath there. Looking back, you guys even ended the Shanahan era with Peyton Hillis, but Selvin Young, that's a name that I haven't heard from in a long time. He didn't quite get 1,000. He got 729, but he made some of these guys, Tatum Bell, pretty much household name for those years.
Yeah, absolutely. The Selvin Young was funny because I remember the year he got those 700 yards. He said that he was going to get 2,000, and even Broncos. Peyton Hillis, Madden legend, Peyton Hillis, the White Rhino.
Exactly.
That was his breakout was actually really weird. It was a year that the Broncos had, I believe, 7 running backs go on IR. So we ended up using our freaking fullback, who was very slow at running back. So, and then he ended up getting a good season with the Browns, got a Madden cover. Will always be legendary for that, I guess.
Yep, of course. One more I just have to go out there. Reuben Drones, 1,240 yards he got out of him.
Yeah, he was a fullback when he came out. He was a fullback, and he was a weirdo, though, because he was a fullback, but he was also a kick returner when the season started.
Oh, wow.
And then as happens with Shanahan, he was pretty famous for, once he found his boy, he ran him into the ground and then just went and grabbed another one out of the pile and put him in at running back. And that's what Ruben Drones ended up doing, and that's what he ended up being, was just another name on his impressive resume of rushers.
Awesome. We know that Shanahan had success for Denver, but there's always the worst coach you could remember. Is there a guy in between any of your fandom that you just want to forget about?
Josh McDaniels.
Yep. I knew that was coming. He was only there for a couple years, and
the thing is I feel like the Broncos got spoiled with Mike Shanahan running the whole show. He was the GM coach, so they bring in a very young coach who was born on third and thought he hit a triple in McDaniels, and he decided to do the same stuff. And McDaniels' play calling was amazing. It was his off the field stuff that was just so terrible. It was his handling of the Jay Cutler, Matt Castle situation that cost us a quarterback that I firmly believe, had Mike Shanahan not fired, would have ended up being a great quarterback. He just went into a bad situation with Chicago. But Josh McDaniels, his drafts were terrible. One of the famous ones is that he traded a first-round pick the following year for a second-round pick in his first draft and drafted Alphonso Smith. You guys remember Alphonso Smith?
I don't.
No one does. Yeah. But that pick ended up turning into Earl Thomas.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
He traded he moved up in the draft to draft a tight end in the second round in Richard Quinn, who had 7 career receptions at North Carolina. I mean, his drafts were absolutely terrible.
Oh, that's brutal.
He turned Jay Cutler into Noshawn Moreno and Robert Ayers, who Noshawn had an okay career. Robert Ayers was really more of a run-stopping defensive end, but it just he seemed to consistently just make the wrong decision over and over again. And people always say they remember where they were in certain situations. I remember where I was when JFK was killed. I remember where I was 9/11. I remember where I was when Josh McDaniels got fired. I was at a Red Lobster in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
And he got fired halfway through the season. Do you remember what exactly it was for?
Well, that was the same year he got caught doing his own Spygate against the Niners in the London game. And then they didn't even win that game. So they ended up cheating and couldn't even pull it out. And then they just lost and lost and lost. The next game after he got fired was against Arizona. I remember that because running backs coach Eric Studesville took over, and they actually pulled out the win with Tim Tebow at quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah. Thomas.
Tim Tebow, another one. Josh McDaniel drafted him.
Yeah.
First round, right?
Yep. It was luckily it came after Demaryius Thomas, who's definitely a Broncos legend.
Yep, they're both first rounders, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think Demaryius Thomas went 22 and Tebow went 25. But Tebow, I always feel like Tebow could have. I will forever die on the hill that Tim Tebow, had he not had his ridiculous fans, could have been the greatest backup quarterback in football history, because he needs no practice to do what he does.
Yeah, I feel you. That pressure and all the eyes every time you step foot on the field is just, is insane. And he probably didn't get a fair shot at it.
His fans make it impossible for him to get a fair shot. There was billboards in Denver saying "Start Tebow," and that was the year, I believe, after Kyle Orton led the league in passing yards. And
wow!
So it's just consistently over and over again. Just his fans made it to where it was impossible to kind of have him around.
Yep. And when you see guys like Colt McCoy right now, Chase Daniels, that are just lifetime backup quarterbacks, Tim Tebow probably could have did the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. He would have been an amazing backup quarterback. You could have treated him almost like a Taysom Hill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So we got your favorite and your least favorite coach out of the way. Let's go back to the very first Bronco memory that you have. Was it the orange jerseys? Was it the Elway era? Was it the back-to-back Super Bowls? Do you remember your very first Denver Broncos memory?
Well, I was a bit of a late bloomer in getting into sports. I was about 7 before I started getting really, really into sports. And I kind of have that kid memory where you don't really remember stuff very clearly. Yeah. So I admit that it's a bit of a bandwagon memory, but my first time really realizing how big the Broncos were was the helicopter dive in Super Bowl 32. That was when
against the
Packers. My family, that was when everyone realized that the Broncos were going to actually win a Super Bowl. They were 0-4 before the Super Bowls. And that was just watching my dad kind of react to that and just realize like they actually have a chance to win a Super Bowl. I just remember it very, very clearly. From that point on, I remember Mr. B saying this one's for John in that whole experience. I remember Steve Atwater borderline killing his own teammate at the very end of that game. That was kind of the first time that I was like, this is a big deal.
So that was the 98 Super Bowl versus the Packers?
Yeah.
And one of my first memories of just football in general was the next year, 99 versus the Falcons. And the only reason I remember it is because my family went to like a tube city where all the kids could play while the parents watched the Super Bowl. And that was the first year I declined to go play with the kids to watch the Super Bowl. So you guys played Jamal Anderson, the Dirty Birds, the Falcons that year.
And Dan Reeves.
Yep.
One of my favorite memories from that game is that Eugene Robinson got picked up for picking up a prostitute the night before and then got burned by Smith the next day for an 80-yard touchdown.
Nice.
Wow. What a memory.
Yeah, that's classic. And I love that you said you're a late bloomer and you didn't start watching football till you're 7. I mean, that's awesome. 7's very early.
I feel like I just felt like because I got really into hockey before I got into football.
Yeah.
It took me about a year longer because the year before was when the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup. So it was kind of like, oh, dude, this is my favorite teams would just win championships. And I didn't know that pretty soon the Broncos were going to hit a nasty drought.
Yeah. Oh, good.
You got it. G, do you have a first memory of the Broncos? Can you think of anything?
The first memory of the Broncos, man, as weird as it to say, I just remember Jake Plummer playing, Jake the Snake, man, playing. Like he just looked like a mountain man. You know, I know he came from Arizona, but yeah, man, just looked like a mountain man, just balling out, man. It was good to see. I mean, it was just one of those, you know, like you said, Shanahan turned him into a, you know, great quarterback, solid quarterback, and it was just awesome to see. And he did the same with Kyle Orton, you know. So it was definitely just seeing Shanahan work. But like just turning out those no names, like you were saying, is that I remember. It's like, man, how's Jake Plummer, you know, doing all this? You know, how's Orton doing all this? How's Cutler look great? And then all of a sudden he goes to Chicago, just craps, you know what I mean? So I think it's I would say Jake the Snake. I remember him playing a lot, but I mean, ultimately it was Shanahan just doing his work, doing his thing. Yeah,
I mean, looking back on it right now, somehow Shanahan got Jake Plummer to 4,089 yards. Back then in 2003, not many people are throwing for 4,000 yards.
Well, especially Jake Plummer. He was more known for kind of. He was very mobile. He moved around a lot. He definitely took a lot more sacks than he needed, threw a lot more interceptions than he needed. But one of my favorite things about Plummer is that after he left the Broncos, he said that Shanahan's playbook was so complicated, he only learned like a quarter of it the entire time they worked together.
Wow.
It was so complicated. So if he didn't know, he would just audible out of it.
Wow. And I know G knows this. Kyle Shanahan's playbook nowadays, most quarterbacks say it takes them 2 years to learn it. I know it was that way for Matt Ryan. I'm sure Jimmy Garoppolo, if he wouldn't have got hurt, but you know, it just takes a minute.
Having a bad time. You know, Nick Mullins is a solid quarterback.
Got it. All right. G might not agree with that right now.
I'm not saying a long-term option, but a solid backup.
Yeah.
Solid backup. I'll give you that. Solid backup.
So we got your first memory. Do you have a favorite memory throughout the years, whether it be in a Super Bowl, a draft pick, a classic games? I mean, you guys got a lot to choose from here. I just went back and looked at some Broncos stuff, so I hope you pull out one of these that I watched today.
Yeah, so I mean, I think for someone my age, I feel like I was a little too young to really appreciate how much a Super Bowl means. So for the people that aren't aware of Pat Bowlen's history, he was the owner of the Broncos for many years. A few years before Super Bowl 50, he announced that he had Alzheimer's. He was going to have to step down from the role. And when the Broncos won their first Super Bowl, Pat Bowlen grabbed the trophy and he threw it up in the air and said, "This one's for John Elway." And so for me, when the Broncos won Super Bowl 50, Mr. B couldn't be there because he was starting to succumb really badly to the effects of Alzheimer's. And John Elway took that trophy and he threw it in the air and he said, "This one's for Pat." And I feel like that was kind of one of the most Disney moments I've ever watched. A lot of times we don't really appreciate Disney moments when they're happening. And I felt like we got to actually see one happen in front of us. So that's definitely up there. The one that's kind of a deep cut memory, that same year, Peyton Manning wasn't a good quarterback at that point anymore. It was just simple statistics. He threw like 17 or 19 interceptions in very few games. Like he was just not doing well. He got benched for Brock Osweiler, and then late in the season he came back in.
Yep.
And in the AFC Championship game that year, he rolls out to the right, and there's no one for a mile and a half in front of him. But it's Peyton Manning, and when he's at a full sprint, he looks like a giraffe that was just born and is learning how to walk. Kind of run up the sideline, and the entire sideline is laughing so hard at him. But he got the first down, and it felt very reminiscent of that helicopter dive that Elway had, where it's just kind of like this old beat down quarterback is going to do everything he can to win. And I just that memory is so clear to me that he was about to sell out and do anything he needed to get them to that Super Bowl.
Wow.
And also just beating the living shit out of Tom Brady for 60 minutes felt really good.
Yeah, I liked seeing that.
Yeah,
those are great memories, man. I mean, especially the John Elway holding up the trophy for the like stuff like that. That's why we do this stuff, because only a real Broncos fan would realize how important and stuff that was.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that Super Bowl was awesome. Just seeing Von Miller just getting the back, getting after Cam Newton all those times was just awesome to see.
Exactly.
Especially MVP. I was like, man, this guy better get it, because like you said, Peyton Manning was beat down. He relied on his defense, and that defense was championship caliber. That defense was awesome. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I love that defense.
One game that I have to bring up. It's just I remember it. I went back and watched it like sometime last year just because it was on YouTube, and I was like, I got to rewatch this game. It was 2013. It was the Cowboys versus the Broncos. Tony Romo versus Peyton Manning. 99 total points scored, over 1,000 total yards. Do you remember that game?
I do. I do believe Tony Romo set the record for most passing yards in a loss. Is that
I think you're right on that. And you said Peyton Manning running like, a deer trying to find his feet, a newborn. He actually had a rushing touchdown in that game. And I remember them saying that's his first rushing touchdown in 5 years. And I was always like, of course, versus the Cowboys.
I remember that run because it took so hilariously long for him to get the end zone.
It was just a bootleg, but man, that was a shootout. It went back and forth. And then, of course, the very end ended with a Tony Romo interception. But hey, that's the way it went back then.
Can you guys name the two starting running back or the leading running backs for each team?
I'm not sure. I want to say Marion Barber, but I'm not sure if that's who it was.
So I think Marion Barber's a good guess. For Broncos, those were the years that
I got it right here.
Those were the years that Noshawn Moreno was there, but I'm going to say C.J. Anderson.
It was Noshawn. Noshawn had 19 carries, 93 yards, and 1 touchdown. DeMarco Murray had 12 yards.
Murray.
3 yards and 1 touchdown. Oh, man. The leading receivers for that game was Julian Thomas, 122 and 2 touchdowns. And Duran, your boy, Terrence Williams, 4 receptions.
Oh, yeah.
151 yards and 1 touchdown.
No, I remember he caught a couple bombs in that game. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was his rookie year too. But yeah, that's when Terrence Williams came on the scene. Definitely.
Julian Thomas, what a reliable name.
Yeah.
Julius Thomas was the quintessential I played basketball, so I don't block tight end.
Yeah. And he was strictly a product of Peyton Manning. He became a multimillionaire because of Peyton Manning. He goes on to, it was Jacksonville on a huge contract, and that was pretty much it. Cashed out.
Yep, 100%.
Yep. So not everything's good memories. We like to remember the Super Bowls and the wins over the Cowboys, of course, but do you have a worse memory?
Yeah. I've been thinking about this for a while. And everyone has, every fan base has their famous plays. Gennaro, you're a big Niners fan. Everyone remembers the catch.
Yep.
Or, Steelers fans, they remember the immaculate reception.
Mm-hmm.
But I never thought about the team on the other side that has to always live with this famous moment being a heartbreaking moment for them. And the miracle at Mile High, where Joe Flacco starts the most ridiculous playoff run of all time with Raheem Moore not understanding how a freaking prevent defense works and giving up a giant touchdown to Jacoby Jones, I think it was.
Yeah.
And watching him run into the end zone and realizing in the moment that this was going to be one of those iconic moments, especially because Ray Lewis, it was his last year, kind of Ray Lewis. I knew it was going to be this big thing. And then having it called the Miracle at Mile High, and it's another team's moment in your stadium.
Yeah.
Is like the ultimate insult.
Yep.
Oh, that's 70-yarder to Jacoby Jones. Damn, they went on. That was a tough year for me too, man. They went on to win the Super Bowl, man.
Oh, was that the blackout Super Bowl?
Yeah.
That was the blackout Super Bowl.
Worse the Niners.
Because
that was the
New Orleans has a record of like freaking Iraq, I think.
Yeah.
Yep, that was Ray Lewis's walk-off, his win the Super Bowl and retire game.
Damn,
yeah,
I forgot that it was at Mile High.
Yeah.
That 70-yard reception. Like I never thought of it that way, like to be on the other end of like a famous play in NFL history. And I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. Yep, it does. I know that sucks. I hate to keep bringing up bad memories, but one of the ones I went back and looked at today was in 2013. This was the first Peyton Manning and Tom Brady game where you guys blew a 24-0 point lead. Do you recall that one? I rewatched it today, and it was, you guys had Wes Welker on your team, and then he had Julian Edelman. So it was kind of like those guys were battling back and forth, both the former slot Patriot receivers. And that was a classic Tom Brady comeback game.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those games that I remember that game because I believe it meant quite a bit to the seeding that year. And it was just kind of one of those games that, like, I don't ever remember feeling comfortable in that game. Like, even at the very beginning, because like you said, it was Tom Brady. And whether or not you like Tom Brady, the dude's a closer. He always has been. And he, he's a force of nature. And if you guys get the chance, Von Miller wrote a Players Tribune article one time about how to beat Tom Brady. And all it comes down to is like you have to play an absolute perfect game plan. And then at the end, you also have to get lucky. So that's just what it always ends up being against Tom Brady.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like Tom Brady has been on a lot of those lucky sides himself.
Yeah, you got the tuck game. His kickers bailed him out quite a few times.
Plenty of times. The crazy catches that has happened in the fourth quarter, last drive type stuff. Yeah, I mean, luck plays in a lot to Super Bowls. And
I'm not going to get into all the cheating allegations because I feel like every real football fan knows where they stand on that fence, and there's no point in hashing it out. But whether or not you think he's an upstanding member of the league or whatnot, he's still an amazing quarterback who's been doing it for the better part of 20-something years now.
Exactly. And I know you guys took that loss then, and that's probably what made that 2015 Super Bowl so great. You guys came back and ended up winning that one versus Tom Brady. So yeah, Brady's done that to a lot of teams, and you guys are one of the few teams that got to kind of get your payback.
Yeah, the Broncos are the only team that the Patriots and Tom Brady had a losing record against.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't want to continue on like just stabbing you with that twisting it. Like I wasn't gonna bring up Maurice Clarett. You guys drafted him in the third round.
Oh, I forgot about Clarett.
Let's go ahead and move on from the worst memories and focus on something different about Denver Broncos, because let's not continue with the hate.
Gennaro, I will die on this hill. Maurice Clarett was a good draft pick. He was a compensatory third round draft pick. A national champion that had 2 years off. All the Broncos lost was a compensatory pick. If he would have turned out anything decent, it would have been amazing. It would have been considered a Tom Brady level draft pick.
He was in a very bad situation too.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's the first player ever to sue the NCAA and just for his eligibility being revoked and all that stuff. And he was put in a very tough situation, and I'm pretty sure all had to do with getting a free tattoo.
Well, that and I watched that documentary, The Youngstown Boys, I think it was
Uh-huh.
called.
Yeah.
And he was beaten down at the end of his freshman year. And there's no way he could have survived another 2 years getting used the way he was getting used by Jim
Oh,
Tressel.
okay.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think he also was one of the people who no, I think it wasn't the tattoos. Wasn't that Terrell Pryor?
Yeah, that was
Oh, was
prior.
that prior?
Yeah. I
But
think
yeah, I mean,
Ohio
was,
State.
yeah, it's
Colette
Ohio
was
State.
giving away I think he was giving away like game memorabilia. Like, hey, I wore this helmet. You can have it.
Exactly. And I'm
He didn't
sorry, but
even
I'm definitely on the side of where like you're making millions upon billions of dollars off these college students. I'm not against them making some money.
Oh, not at all. Especially
not at all.
those programs like that. Come on.
Not at all. Like especially seeing like Last Chance U and how they live. I'm like, hey, if they make a couple bucks by like signing something, let them have it.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I think we got all the memory stuff out of the way. Now it's time to move on to your future expectations. I mean, coming up in next year's draft, you guys have all 7 picks. You do have some guys that are coming up on the end of their contracts: Justin Simmons, Elijah Wilkinson, Shelby Harris, and Tim Patrick, who's actually surprised me a little bit this year, just in the way he's actually at this moment, he's leading your team in receiving. I think Jerry Jeudy will end up taking that. 2 guys that you have on team options that will more than likely be back: Von Miller, Kareem Jackson. Do you have any hopes or dreams for the NFL draft or free agency?
Yeah, well, to start off with the people on the team, I love Von Miller. I'm a Broncos fan. I hope Von Miller never leaves the Broncos. I don't think he'll come back at a $25 million cap hit.
Mm-hmm.
His dead money's only $5 million. And to be frank, Malik Reed, no relation, has been killing it at that position. And I just don't see Von Miller coming back at 25. I hope he can take a pay cut if he doesn't want to and leaves. I fully understand. It'll break my heart, but I don't think he'll come back because they need that money for Justin Simmons. They're going to want to keep Shelby Harris. They got some stuff they have to get done, and they're running out of time for Von Miller's value.
Yeah, he's 32.
Yeah, he's going to be 32. We're starting to get to the point where he's going to have to find that DeMarcus Ware situation where he can go and produce, but he's going to have to produce behind another elite pass rusher. And I hope Bradley Chubb steps that up. I don't know if he will. But yeah, I just don't see Vaughn coming back at a $25 million cap hit. But as far as free agency, the Broncos, they have a lot to take care of in their own house at this point. So I don't know how much money there's going to be for free agents. And then I still am firmly on the side that the Broncos are one of the most injury-riddled teams in the league. I know, Gennaro, and your Niners aren't exactly living in Healthville right now, but neither are the Broncos. Von Miller's out for the season. Cortland Sutton, who was our Pro Bowl receiver last year, out for the season. Philip Lindsay's been fighting injuries all year. We lost right tackle Juwan James to optional COVID step out. Our entire defensive line is out. We are now have our 4th and 7th string cornerbacks starting next week. So I mean, there's just a lot of stuff to go on. So I still firmly believe that the team's headed in the right direction. So I'm a lot more concerned about what they're going to be doing in the draft and what they're going to be doing in free agency.
Do you see Vic Fangio coming back?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm a fan of him, so I'm glad. Yeah.
Well, everything I'm reading from all the teams, they love Vic Fangio. They understand that this year is not a normal year. I think with the exception of the really bad coaches, like your Adam Gases and stuff like that, I just don't see any value in taking a lot into this season on how stuff was handled because this is such a weird year. It's such a one-off year. So yeah, I definitely think Vic's going to be back. I think they're going to bring Pat Shurmur back. I don't see any major coaching changes. Maybe from what I've heard, people are sniffing around the Broncos defense position coaches for defensive coordinator types and stuff like that. But other than that, I see pretty much the whole band getting back together.
Nice. Well, that's why you bring you on. I did not know about Von Miller's huge cap hit and the situation they were kind of in with the dead money, his age and things like that. So I expected him to be back, but yeah, who knows at this point now that I learned that.
If the draft were to start tomorrow, do you have a position group that you would like to focus on? Because as of right now, I think you guys would be pick 13, the draft pick behind the 49ers and in front of the Vikings. So
one of the big things dividing the fan base right now is the quarterback position, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fan base wants to see what Drew Lock turns into. The other half is ready to kick him to the curb. I'm a patient person. I want to make sure that there is no juice left in that before we throw it out. So I would actually prefer to address the secondary, specifically cornerback. I really want us to actually, because right now we're leaning on older cornerbacks and Callahan. I don't know if AJ Boye is going to be back with his recent suspension for PEDs, and I'm kind of getting sick and tired of watching us trot out undrafted free agents and late round draft picks and cast offs and stuff like that. I'd like us to go out and get ourselves a legitimate number one corner in the draft.
I feel you.
Yeah, that's good that you say that, because I'll keep that in mind, because I like to mess around with mock drafts obviously when the season's over.
Mm-hmm.
But if while we were talking, I kind of did one, and I actually guys gave you guys a good edge from Georgia. I'm gonna butcher his name, so I'm not gonna say it, but his first name is Aziz. But I heard you say Von Miller might be out, and I think he is, unfortunately. So I gave you guys another edge. I mean, I think that'll kind of hide your guys' secondary. That's been kind of Vic Fangio's defense. If you go all the way back to the 49ers, I mean, they had Carlos Rogers and Terrell Brown, and because of those two edges, the Smith brothers, they just smashed house, and then you had solid play from the secondary, which was okay at best. But now that you said secondary, I can see that I totally forgot about AJ Bouye's suspension until you brought that up. But yeah, okay, cornerback, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot more sense than an edge as well. So
well, and I wouldn't be opposed to us getting an edge if they don't believe that Malik Reed can be a long-term solution at edge. He's been doing great. I think he's leading the league for undrafted free agents, which is kind of a weird caveat. But he's got enough sacks. He's been doing good enough job on the edge. So I don't know if they want to. That's not a huge need, and I just see cornerback as a very desperate need going into next season.
Yeah, especially Justin Simmons coming up too. I know you want him back, but Justin Simmons paired with the AJ Bouye stuff as well. Yeah, definitely a need there.
Yeah, I mean, Reed was definitely a good shining light when you guys lost Barrett. So yeah, I definitely like that. How well to see Reed blossom to what he is now, especially coming from what he came from, like Nevada, right?
Yeah.
All right. G, I only got one more question. I don't know if you got anything else.
No, I don't got anything else, man. As far as the draft goes, that was my thing. But yeah, man, go feel free.
You got it. Last question we got to ask. How do you feel about Elway? Do you think he should be in? Do you think he should be out? I know people give him some flack about not finding the quarterback since Peyton Manning and stuff like that. But I look back at some of his draft picks and stuff, and, I actually liked him, especially the first 2 to 3 picks. I just wanted to know how you felt about Elway.
I love this question. Go ahead.
So I'm a lifelong Broncos fan. John Elway's the greatest person that's ever lived. But the thing is I feel like if you talk to most fans of most fan bases and you said general manager A will in 10 years is going to produce 5 division championships, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and a Super Bowl win, would you take that? I feel like just about everyone's going to say yes.
Yep.
And that's what the Broncos have. I understand he's struggling to find the quarterback, and I understand that a Peyton Manning scenario doesn't come around very often, but I'm fully wanting the Broncos to have unknown continuity. The Broncos haven't had continuity throughout the organization since Shanahan. And I want to make sure that everyone is where we absolutely know everything about every person in the organization before they leave. So I'm fine riding with Elway as long as he wants to. I know that he's big into politics, and the last time his contract was almost up, a lot of people thought he was going to start running for public office. And so that's always a possibility. But I would very much like to see what he can do with a few more years in the GM seat for running the team, because I think other than the shaky quarterback position, he's built a damn good football team around that. And I'm still not sold that Drew Lock isn't the guy. I'm not saying he is, but I would like to make sure he's not before they get rid of him.
Yeah, I feel you. That'd be heartbreaking if he went somewhere else and started to turn it on.
Yeah. I mean, Gennaro, you're a big Niners fan. I wonder how Buccaneers fans feel about Steve Young. I don't want a Steve Young situation.
He came from the LA Express. All I care.
All right. I think that's about it for us, man. Thank you, of course, for joining us. You're truly a diehard fan, and that's why I reach out to guys like you. I mean, you spend your free time just voluntarily watching and sharing your knowledge on the Denver Broncos, and we appreciate it. And if you're a Broncos fan, go ahead and check them out on the subreddit r/Broncos, and yeah, join in on the fun.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you guys for having me on here, and thanks for giving us a great podcast to listen to. And I'm just very, very excited to see where you guys go in the future with this.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. We'll send out all your links and everything out on Twitter and whatnot. Duran will go ahead and link up the page of your Reddit page and whatnot. And yeah, man, thanks again, man. That was awesome.
Thank you.
No problem.